Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Well, we've got Warhammer Day coming up. That's, going to be exciting. Towards the end of the month here, we'll have a look. But one thing that's pretty exciting about this is that they're releasing one of those limited models for it, which is, in my opinion, an interesting design choice for this particular model. And it could bode well for the future of the faction that it's from, at least in my opinion. But we'll talk about that in a second. Just, my own little ruminations on maybe the future, who knows. But overall, it's definitely a model that I enjoy for sure. And we'll take a look at some Bloodbowl stuff too, because they've released another model for that. But we'll take a look at that in a second. So the Celebrate Warhammer Day this October with 2 sensational new miniatures. So let's have a look at what they say. So Warhammer Day returns once again on the 30th of October 2021. We're making this momentous day with not one but 2 incredible commemorative edition miniatures and an absolutely massive online preview of some of the major releases slated for the rest of 2021 and beyond. It's an unmissable celebration of gaming, whether you're rolling dice with your mates in person or battling for glory online. We're so excited that we're going to be bringing you Warhammer Day themed content in the run up to the big day. Look out for it right here on the community page. But first, the small matter of the jaw-dropping new miniatures. Have a gander. Okay, well, one of them's not jaw-dropping, but still really, really cool. The other one is a Space Marine Lieutenant, which, is cool, but by no means is it their best version of this type of model. I've noticed a lot. We'll take a look at him first. It's a nice figure, but ultimately, what I find anyway, I don't know if anyone else does, is that for a lot of the Space Marine characters that they do, these type of models where it's just this one-off thing, they tend to just be reconstituted versions of the various base meshes that they have in their CAD program, just reformulated in a slightly different way, with a few extra little tiny details to change it. All these parts are basically all from the same kit. There's just a couple of pieces, obviously the face and so on, that are different, and then that's all it is. And it is in a nice pose, so it's good for, I think what these kind of figures are good for is conversion, right? So this makes a nice base figure for you to do some kit bashing on. It's a unique pose, that sort of thing, and it gives you another variant that you can use to mix it up and give yourself something different to model on, which is cool. And from that point of view, I like that they do these things, because it gives Space Marine players more variation for their kit bashes, which is cool. But certainly, I definitely like it more when they go in a bit and actually re-sculpt and do whole new sort of armor variants and so on, or very, very different sections and that sort of thing, and come up with a more unique model. A bit like what they've done for the Black Templars, the model that I talked about in the last news, which I think is probably, from a historical point of view, a very important model. That's the John Blanche inspired model with the axe, and that's a very, very beautiful design. Even if you don't like the form language of that armor as much as, let's say, a standard Space Marine, it's evoking something really special. And if you haven't heard me rant on about that, have a look at that video and you can listen to my thoughts. But that's sort of like a unique model. And I think maybe Games Workshop, in these cases, when they do these ones, I got a feeling that maybe they don't give them enough time, the designers enough time to actually do a complete figure. They might say, hey, we've only got X amount of time, can you put something together? And so really the sculptor doesn't have much choice but to just do these kinds of smaller additions to get a model out the door and for a particular time frame. And that's fine. That happens in many industries. I've worked in movies, and I can tell you in the movie industry, that's exactly what happens. You'll get called up in the morning, they'll say something's changed, and they've got to have a design by the end of the day, and so you'll literally have less than 8-10 hours or something or less to design something and get it sent off to the director for approval or whatever, right? So these kind of things happen, and in these kind of instances, I feel like that's a bit like what's going on. They just don't quite give them enough time, because they know they have all the spare parts, right? All of these pieces are already designed and already sitting in the CAD program in their files, ready to use, and they can just make one relatively fast. All they have to do is sculpt a face and a few other little small details, and away you go. And yeah, it's totally understandable. But that's what I'll say about this. But otherwise, it's pretty cool. But the one that I think is especially interesting is this one here. Now, this is really, really cool. This caught my attention. So, we know Soulblight are in... Really, they have a second edition book, even though it's been sort of designed for third edition, but they don't really have technically an official third edition book. And this model here is very much reminiscent of a Necrarch style vampire, something that I talked about with Soulblight in another one of my talks on Soulblight. The fact that they were missing really that magic faction, the faction that's really focused on necromancy. And this feels very much like an old school Necrarch vampire. It's got the big back hood here. We've got the front two teeth, exactly like that. Just a much nicer sculpted version. And what I love about figures like this and other vampire figures and undead figures is where they like to play with the Beauty and the Beast idea, where, they're holding themselves in a beautiful way. You can tell that there's that arrogance there, or that sense that they feel as if they are, there's beauty there. Even in the sculptural shapes, like the form language of the figure itself, they've paid attention to making sure that the figure has that kind of pleasing look. However, there is this bestial or monstrous quality to it. So you're seeing, in the way the head is designed, in the shapes and so on, the hands, there's these little touches of the monstrous, and blending those two together, I feel, is the most compelling for vampires and those kinds of creatures, because it's playing with the themes that make up what a vampire actually is, in our, I guess, outside of Warhammer, human culture and stories of them and so on. And so I really love this idea. And the fact that this is very much like a Necrarch vampire. If you don't know what that is, go and take a look at some old Warhammer fantasy stuff that's online and you'll find out what that is. Basically, it's the faction that dedicated more towards wizardry and necromancy in general, and are not as, let's say, combat focused as the other vampire lines. They're more focused on the magic. And this definitely does that. And so my theory is that it looks like maybe, who knows, maybe they have, dabbled in some ideas for a more magic-focused faction, and maybe that'll come for a third edition book, because I did find that when I looked at that Soulblight book, it was like missing a whole section of what makes the vampires in the Warhammer world cool, in my opinion. I love the necromancy side of it. We're missing, named necromancers. There's none in that book. And we're also missing, vampires that focus more on the magic side of things, and so this is a really interesting figure from that point of view, at least in the way I see it. But more often, even if that's not the case and it's just this one, I think this is a really, really beautiful figure. So yeah, I won't go on too long about it. Obviously, you can tell I'm a Death fan, and but I'll definitely pick one of these up just because it's fun. And it's very different from the others, and I think fits in well with if you're doing a more sort of magic necromancy based kind of themed army, this would fit in really well. Even if it doesn't end up being anything more than just a single figure. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. I think it's definitely worth picking up, and let's take a look at what they say about it. So I'll come down here. So I think it says, this Primaris Lieutenant with Storm Shield will be joined by the Vampire Lord Anasta Malcorian, with both miniatures available for a strictly limited time starting on Warhammer Day itself, the 30th of October, until the 7th of November. So I guess, what's that, like a week? Yeah, so Anasta Malcorian will be available in stores and online, but you'll only be able to acquire our Brave Lieutenant from gamesworkshop.com. So looks like, you'll be able to get, this one, the Vampire, in person or online, and then the Lieutenant only online, which is fine. That's all good. So I'm sure they're going to have some more little bits and pieces for this as it goes along. But really, I really enjoy this model. This model is just a fun sculpt, and I think any Undead fan will be happy to have this in the collection, at least one, just to muck around with it, just because it is a pretty cool idea and does definitely give me those old Warhammer Fantasy vibes from the shapes and the overall look of the vampire. Definitely cool, right? So yeah, that's all that for that. Let's go and have a look at this Bloodbowl figure. So now we've got some Bloodspawn for the Khorne team. So another addition for the Bloodbowl side of things, which I think anyone that plays Bloodbowl will be very happy for. More figures, that's great. And we have this giant behemoth here. Another big fella. So we had the last time we looked at the Skaven one, and now we're seeing the Khorne one, and really, really cool, right? There's so many cool ideas. Even if you're not playing Blood Bowl, again, this is a great conversion opportunity. There's great little parts on here that you could use. This arm is great. I can see many things using this sort of section of the body, but just for Blood Bowl generally, this is a fun model. And if you're playing Khorne, I'm sure you'll be using this at some point. It has some pretty cool rules. It's pretty powerful. And as they say further down, having a couple of players with guard or whatever, it is a loner, I'm pretty sure. So, being able to assist him in some way with some, experienced players will probably go pretty well, considering he is, higher strength and so on with Mighty Blows. So that's going to make him pretty effective at sending players off and killing them. So that's really cool. And just all the little parts on him, it's just fun. You can see the sculptors really having a good time just mixing it up and trying out, different ideas. If we come down here and we take a look at the image, I mean, it's great, right? This is... I love the design choice to go with this type of almost watercolor type images. It helps keep the fun and I guess humor in the Blood Bowl stuff, rather than sort of going for photorealistic sort of renditions of these characters. They're keeping it fun and light, and I think that's really important for Blood Bowl. It's something that you never want to lose. I don't think that would really take away the essence of what makes this game so enjoyable and so liked by so many people. I mean, I've talked about this before. It's a game that's been going forever. It's probably their most successful sub-game that they've ever produced. Just by the nature of, if you look at, let's say, the tournament scene, you'll get just hundreds and hundreds of people going for Blood Bowl tournaments. That it's got a big following, and as I said, it has been pretty much untouched for most of that time. Only recently have we seen an update, and I guess Games Workshop has realized just how good their game actually is. It's something that I've talked about before. Games Workshop doesn't always know when they've strike gold. It tends to be glossed over because they're always looking for the next thing, as most big companies are, and don't always realize when they've actually done something really well. And that's definitely Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is by far one of their best games they've ever produced, and it's evident in the fact of how popular it still is and how they're supporting it. So it's really, really cool. So he's got... We'll just have a look at the stats. So he's got the strength 5 there, and decent armor and so on. Movement's a bit slow, but that's okay. But here we have the Mighty Blow and the other abilities like Frenzy and all of that, which are going to help to make him pretty strong overall. And if you can get a couple of players to assist him, as they talk about, I think you'll find that you'll be definitely having a lot of good fun with him. And with the special character they've got that they released, I've forgotten his name now, Skyra, isn't it? Something like that. So you've got a couple of big models that you can throw into a Khorne team now. And I can see some fun players with this. I think that's going to be cool for any Khorne player. So pretty fun. I think that's cool. So, some really nice releases this week, and that vampire is looking really, really interesting, at least for what it might bode well for the future for Soulblight and what they do for a 3rd edition book and how they want to develop it. Hopefully they continue to explore the vampires and the different types of units and choices that there could be, or skills and the different kind of abilities that could be within that kind of army, and keep pushing it and keep having a look, because they've got a lot of good groundwork to explore. But it'll be fun to see what they actually do, because it's such a popular faction, right? There's a huge swath of people out there that play Warhammer that are into Undead and the Death faction. It's a very popular army. If you look at tournament results and so on, Soulblight are up there. They're being played a lot, because it is just one of those classic tropes, right? The skeletons, all that stuff. It's just vampires and so on are just a wonderful part of fantasy, I think, and always evocative, always fun to muck around with. So I'll leave you on those thoughts there. I hope you're all enjoying your day. If you have enjoyed this, please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.